And with everything moving from online to offline world and offline to online world, I think it's very important to talk about data protection, security, ethical use, a code of conduct that we need for the online world, which I think most people really do not know, are simply not aware of. So we thought we would include this topic in our sessions, and to talk on this topic, we have our brilliant, highly qualified, and successful Sayyida Yumna Hasni. Just to give a brief background of Yumna, I have to shorten it because it's so long, so our viewers and listeners know what she has been doing and so on, before we jump to the questions. Yumna has over 9 years of experience in the development sector in the areas of program development, program management, and communications. She's also a development consultant and the former manager of the health program at Akhtar Hamid Khan Resource, and has worked for many national and international organizations. She has also been affiliated with Radio Pakistan since 2010, working for Planet 94 and FM 101 radio station as a radio host, voiceover artist, and content writer. She is also a trainer in communications and leadership, and currently she's the lead trainer and mentor for Girls program initiative of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government with a mission to empower girls. Hi, Yumna. Thank you very much for taking the time out and for joining us today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Hafsa. Thank you, Daastan Accountability Lab. Good to be here. And this is a very interesting topic.
I
Digitalize.
think
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's very important that we talk about this now because, in the Pakistani society, a lot of people, they do not know how to use online world, and they just use it without being aware of the concerns and the dangers. And I mean, there are positive sides too, but I thought it was really important to include this in one of our sessions.
Great. We want to learn about how to use technology in a safe and secure way, which will benefit all of us. And that is the reason why we're here. So let's start.
Right. Before we start and talk about the ethics and everything, I would like to know, why did you choose to go into the radio world? Was it by choice? Was it by chance due to some circumstances? And how has been the journey like? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you want to continue? How was that?
I absolutely love the world of radio. And I started 10 years ago when I was in university. And I clearly remember that it was my last day at university, my last paper. Someone came running in the Debates and Dramatics Club Society, the student society, and they said that a producer from Radio Pakistan is here to take auditions. And I was very excited because I've always been a public speaker and I've always been a debater. And my academic life was ending. And I thought, well, I need to be on stage. I need to be in front of the mic. Actually, being in front of the mic, that is my first love. That is what I really enjoy. So I was like, okay, this is a perfect opportunity. Why don't I give it a try? And I tried, I auditioned, I went to the studio, I sat in front of the computer. They said, well, pretend to be an RJ, pretend that this is your show, have a name for yourself. And I think I did like a afternoon traffic show. That was my pitch to them and they liked it. After a training of 1 month, I was finally on board. And it's been 10 years. I've made wonderful friends. It's a wonderful world. I think the best thing about being an RJ is that I get to meet people
Right.
because I use that power and the platform that I have to talk to people, to share their stories. And if I introduce myself as an RJ and I say that, well, I really liked your conference, I liked your content, please come and join me on the show. They're very interested and they're kind of like that. And that has enabled me to meet more people and it's kind of cut down the barriers of networking. So, for personally and for my professional development, it has been great. I have met amazing friends. So, we have as RJs, as radio jockeys, we have day jobs as well. Many of us are bankers, we are vets, we are dentists, we are teachers. So it's a diverse group of people. We hang out. We have these group shows on Eid and New Year's Eve where all of us come together. It's a family. I've
I
really
can
enjoyed.
imagine. I can imagine. I mean, how is it like when you have this monologue with yourself? Kind of. I mean, most of the shows are like this, where you're just talking in this soundproof room, and realizing that a lot of people are listening. How is it? How is that like? Because I remember when I started with these Zoom lectures, it was almost a similar experience in that sense, because I was giving lectures with my professor, and it was so weird to just talk to yourself in front of the screen. And I think in that regard, it is a bit similar, right?
Exactly, because you're in the studio, all soundproofed, and just the mic, and you don't
Right.
know who's listening to you until you look at the message machine and check the stats. So it's interesting. Yes, in the beginning, it does seem that you're talking to yourself, and you're like, "All right, I am so vain that I am in just talking about." Yeah, so I'm basically having a monologue with myself.
Right. Right.
But I think you get used to it. I think when you realize the intent and the purpose, you overcome those doubts and this feeling, and it then and that is the art. I think to turn the monologue into a dialogue. That is where
Yeah.
your experience and expertise comes in. And initially, when I started, it was also like a monologue. I used to say, "I'm talking to myself, for God's sake. What is? It's weird."
Yeah.
Uh, but then when you actually realize uh, the content, the storytelling, and how do you engage the audiences on radio, because they can't see you, so it's
Right.
just your voice. It's the voice, it is the timing, it is your tone, it is inflection, it is the idea that you're presenting. Is it boring? Is it too complicated? Is it informative? Someone wants to talk about science, other people want to talk about movies, someone wants to talk about books, other people hate reading books. How do you balance all these things? So I think that is the skill that comes in, which comes over time. Honestly, with experience, you gain some confidence, you gain those tips and tricks that kind of help you to involve other people. And we do get live calls, we get off-air messages, we get on-air messages, and now we have Facebook, we've gone to Twitter and Instagram, so we're constantly monitoring those websites as well for feedback. um,
Right.
and the simple basic thing is that there is always a phone in the studio, there's always a phone line. So if anyone wants to talk to us, they can call us, we pick up and we say, "Hello, how are you? Welcome to FM 101. I'm RJ Yomna." And this is how the conversation begins.
Right.
So it's now turning into a dialogue, I have to say, from a monologue into a dialogue.
Well, I'm glad it is, because I'm sure it's much better than just talking in that way, where it is more like a monologue. But I'm sure it's a great experience in itself, a world in itself,
Oh,
right?
yes. Interesting things have happened. We've got birds suddenly flying in the studio and cats coming in. I remember a time when the electricity went away for half an hour and the generators had stopped working. And I had to talk for 20 minutes on air without music. And I think I panicked because I didn't know. I mean, I was like, I'm rambling, but does that rambling make logical sense? Because, see, silence is death on the radio. That's what we're taught. We're also taught how to balance voice, sound, and music. Because, of
Mm,
course, I can't talk nonstop for 30 or 60 minutes. Uh,
of
uh,
course.
I'm a human being. My vocal cords will get tired. Listeners will get tired. I know I also listen to the other radios as well. And there are times when I am like, "Oh my God, the RJ is talking and talking. Please play some music. Give our ears a break." Which means that you have to balance and realize that people are not in love with your voice as much as you think that they're in love with your voice. You need to give them a break, and you're not just on the radio for yourself, you're also there for these people, you're also there for the listeners. So you have to respect them, and just because your creative idea is different from theirs, that's fine. So it's, yes, it's a unique world.
Right. Yumna, let's move to the core of our topic today. We are talking about, for example, you said the radio has moved from this monologue settings to dialogue settings, and you're now using lots of online platforms to get this feedback and interaction and conversation. Um, what do you think ethics mean for a profession, for example, on a radio that must provide instant news or analysis about something, especially in the times where everyone with a modem is actually a publisher? So, how does that go about?
So, in this world now, everyone has a space to share their opinions and to share their voices. So, social media technology has made life easier. But for everyone who is in this field, whether they're a professional or it's a hobby or they're amateurs or it's their passion project, ethics is the primary thing that one needs to be really scared and to care about. Because if our job as an RJ is not just to entertain people, it is also to inform people, it's also to tell them about current affairs. So the most important thing is to have credibility of news. Whatever you're saying should be honest and truthful, and they should be facts. It should not be made up things that you read off the internet or you Googled it from a blog or Wikipedia. Have a proper, authentic source. Another thing is, how do you share this news? We have a tendency to be very sensational. If you listen to BBC and how they report um, news on bomb blasts or earthquakes or traumatic events, and if you listen to our local channels, even in English language, you'll see a wide difference. If there's a bomb blast, let's say somewhere, a news reader would say very in a somber tone that there has been a bomb blast in this area this time. And in our part of the world, there has been a bomb blast. So many people have died. It's
And
so
sorry to interrupt, but they also play this very sad music in the background to make people even more sad and to make the news even more like a breaking news, right?
exactly. So suddenly it's entertainment. It's info entertainment. It's very packaged. You have a little ticker that keeps on saying breaking news only reported on this channel, which frankly is being reported by every other channel, and which is even more disturbing. And you're like, okay, we have seen this ticker going for like 10 minutes. We know you're breaking the news. That's it. We get it. So I think it's how you deliver the news. That's very important. Whether you need to be empathetic, you need to be calm, you need to be serious. Those emotions have to be there. And you also have to think about people who've been affected. Imagine if they see you reading this news and you're talking about their pain, how would they feel if it's not been correctly portrayed? Of course, they'll feel hurt and angry. And there have been times when I see on the news that if an accident has happened, we go to the victim and ask them suddenly, how do you feel? You've been robbed or you've had an accident. How do you feel? The poor person is trying to make sense of the situation. So I think in that sense, empathy, media training, that's very important, needs to come in. And we're talking about ethics. Remember, everyone now has the platform to share their views. It's open platform. We need to have a space and we need to have the patience and the tolerance to agree to disagree. Your opinion could be different from mine, and my opinion could be different from yours. And that is because we are byproducts of different experiences. That is how our personalities and ideas are shaped, right? So if your favorite color is pink and mine is orange, I should not feel bad about it. And that's just an example. So the point that I'm trying to make is that in this space, you have to be tolerant. And since now everyone has a space, you need to respect other people's opinions. You may not agree with them for different reasons. But if you do, or if you don't, especially, then fine. If you have a space, do remember they also other people have a space as well. So those boundaries need to be very important. I think that's also one of the things of ethics. Another, and this is like a whole debate. Another thing of ethics, and in this digital world we're talking about, is using information, misusing information, misinforming people, fake news, news that is not authentic. For instance, I would say very recently, COVID-19 vaccination. All governments of the countries have rolled out vaccination programs. So has Pakistan. And there's very interesting feedback about people that we've received and the views on vaccination. For instance, people are like, this is a drug, it's going to hinder reproductive health, family planning, it's fake, this is like a conspiracy. Um, or these vials are empty. It could be just salt and water, or sugar and salt and water. So we don't really know what is in it. So and I ask people, where are you getting this news? And they're like, TikTok and WhatsApp and Facebook, and that is fine. It's a platform. It's okay if TikTok is if people are producing this content which TikTok is sharing, which is a platform that is okay, that's fine. You want to get your information from TikTok, great. But then also have those critical knowledge and skills to figure out on your own what is fake news, what is the authenticity of this news, is it credible, does it even make sense? I'm surprised if you have WHO website, you have CDC website, you have Ministry of Health Pakistan website. Why don't you go there rather than getting information from TikTok? But that is an individual's responsibility. Here, I would say it's not just the state who regulates the media. It's also individuals, people who are making content, but people who are receiving content as well. They also need to show some prudence and some thought process. So sharing too many links, forwarding messages on WhatsApp, we are so sick of forwarded messages, honestly. I have a feeling that perhaps we'll have to mute our WhatsApp for a few months. And so that is the thing. Individuals need to be responsible and realize that your time is precious, my time is precious. Thank you, but I don't need forwarded messages. If I need information, I can go on a website or the newspaper, I can find it for myself. So again, Pandora's box of ethics.
Right. And I believe our society in Pakistan is very easy to be manipulated. It's very skeptical, and you can always tell them something which is different from the mainstream narrative, and they would go for that narrative first instead of following the simple mainstream facts, events, everything which is there. And I think a lot of these news platforms and people who create this content really play on that aspect of our population, right?
Yes, because see, the content creators, they for them it's also a business, or it's even if it's a
Mm,
passion, there is a monetary value attached to it. So the more number of hits you have, the more number of views, the more number of subscribers you have, it is ultimately good for your brand. It's ultimately good for your YouTube channel, Instagram page, your brand, your project, your organization. So I think content creators, and they're very aware of our feelings. They know how. So yes, content creators are playing upon that for business reasons. And then you have the people who don't have those skills yet, or for some odd reason, or they are interested in that content. That's also the thing. It's a very, we talk about demand and supply. There's this whole debate that if we had better content, people will watch it. But then
mm,
content makers say that people don't want good content. They
mm.
want the fluff, they want the optics, they want a good packaged product that is
Yeah.
visually pleasing. So,
Mm,
if a product is visually pleasing, you'll have a look at it, you'll open it, you'll go on the website. But if it doesn't have any substance, that is fine because people are interested in optics, or people don't. Another debate is that maybe people don't want to be critical thinkers. There are so
mm,
many problems, or they're so stressed out that when they switch on the television or the news or listen to the radio, they want to be entertained.
mm.
They want to escape from reality. So they don't want to think too hard. They don't want to think about what's right or wrong, or what are the facts, what is the reality. So I don't blame the people sometimes. I understand from the as also I'm also content absorber. I also look at fashion channels and YouTubers. But meaningless fun. I mean, I can spend 4 hours on YouTube just watching videos of cats and dogs and puppies that I enjoy, or
Mm.
just random makeup blogs or videos, which is not adding value to my life, but they're making me happy. So I'm not thinking whether they know how to do makeup or is it right. I'm just enjoying that process. So
Right.
I have to put myself in the shoes of the viewers as well. I have to also put myself in the shoes of the content creators. But I think the debate has gone long enough, and we've realized that if you have good idea and if you have good content, people will to you. And if you are also innovative, let's think out of the box.
Mm.
Let's do something different. Let's disrupt the system and see whether that disruption leads to views. You have to experiment. And if you're not going to experiment, you're not going to find out.
Mm. Mm.
So I can't actually also put the blame on the content creators. I have to say, again, the absorbers, the viewers also are a part of the process and the problem as well, actually.
Right. So absolutely, it's a two-way street, and the both share the responsibility of being ethical. Yumna, you talked about different platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. There are so many now. Do you think it's possible to construct a norm of media ethics which is consistent for all these platforms? Or do you think because every platform is so different with a different vision, different target audience, different objective, do you think the individual or the consumer or the absorber of the content needs to um, get to know for every platform a different set of ethics?
So, all these platforms, yes, they are different. However, their purpose and goals are also very similar. It is to connect, to communicate, it is to share information, it is to disseminate information, to push out information. All of them are doing it in different forms, whether it's pictorial form for Instagram, whether it's a few words for Twitter, and then Facebook combining both and maybe one day you'll, I mean, and then who knows, you could have podcasts and audio links that could be directly attached to Facebook and Twitter, and that could be a new thing as well because the platforms are evolving. So the common purpose really inherently is the same. Yes, the platforms are different and they are all these rules. So you can have one ethical framework. You see, you talk about a framework, a policy that's overarching. So it
Mm.
is definitely possible to have one overall governing set of principles that talk about ethics, about privacy, of protection of data, protection of the individuals who are using this data, protection of even companies and individuals who are pushing out this data, or they're consuming data, or they're using data sets, all the stakeholders. So I would say, to answer this, yes, it is definitely possible to have one overarching framework. And then after the overarching rules, you can have very specific rules for each platform as well. But for that, you need that organization to be on board. So, if you're talking about WhatsApp as a company, and the users of WhatsApp, and the government of WhatsApp, and the governments where WhatsApp is operating, they need to be on board. You also have to look at the constitution of the country, because every country has, of course, their different legal laws. We're all on different indices of freedom of speech. That also has to be considered. So, yes, ethics. I mean, I won't say no to it. I would definitely say that frameworks are possible, and there are frameworks that are available.
Right. Um, I think since this lockdown started, we are in a way forced to use online world as much as possible now. And in Pakistan, I mean, lots of schools that were not used to this technology. The health system wasn't hybrid in that sense, as it is in the Western world. So a lot of these systems are now integrating technology. A lot of people do not or did not want to spend time at home with their family, or all the time, so they're spending most part of their day on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and so on. How do you think an individual should use these platforms ethically and follow a set of etiquettes or code of conduct? Because I think most times they're just trying to apply these behavioral norms from their offline life to their online life, which is in many situations not compatible at all. What tips would you like to give to normal users like me, to use these platforms more cautiously?
So I think we need to go back to the basics and ask one key question: why are we even on social media? There was a time when there was no Facebook, no Twitter. I remember that time we didn't, and there's a time when I didn't have mobile phone either. I'm talking about being in university in my bachelor's, where there were floppy disks. So yes, I am that old. And suddenly now you have USBs, and now you have laptops which don't have DVDs in them. That compartment is totally missing. And again, from the time to having a cassette player and a Walkman, and now you have the DVD players are gone. You stream everything.
Mm.
So we need to go to the basics of why did we ever want to come to social media? Was it because all of our friends were there and it made us feel left out, and so we decided, okay, let's put ourselves out there? Was it because we were feeling lonely or sad, we wanted to connect to other human beings? Perfectly fine, you have that right, so use that. Did you think that you are on social media because you want to improve your brand? If you have a business, do you want to connect to customers? Are you on social media because you want to learn from other people? You want to apply for a scholarship, so you connect with people who've gone for scholarships, so you join different groups. Is that the purpose? And whatever the purpose is, it's fine. But you kind of have to talk to yourself, have that monologue with yourself, that why are you even on there? Was it ever needed? And if the answer is yes, a resounding yes, and you're very clear, fine, you've logged on to the system. Now, do remember that this is a public system, and as much as we try to control the privacy settings, somewhere out there has access to all your information. They are algorithms that are viewing your habits. If you are constantly watching music videos, the algorithms are going to push and recommend the ABC set of singers, because they know that you're being tracked. So you have to be one, as an individual, we need to be careful of what we put ourselves and what we publish, especially images. and pictures, you will hear this very words like trolling and revenge porn, or people downloading your pictures and photoshopping them and then sending them to you to blackmail you. So as a user of the internet, you need to be responsible for yourself, and be careful with the content that you share. That is up to you. That is the power that you have, right? As you are the content uploader, you have to make that rational choice. So for images, if you're talking images, I would say do in Rome, when in Rome, do as Romans do. Do remember that if you're in a very culturally sensitive city or a country, don't put pictures that are going to attract unwanted attention. Now, again, this brings another Pandora's box: freedom of speech, the freedom that individuals have, the right to expression. And then there's a counter argument is that, yes, great, you have that freedom, but even that freedom needs to be governed by ethics. So again, you're going in one direction, then you're pulled in the other direction. So I would say, look at the context, look at the situation, the local context where you are in. So for pictures, I would say, be careful. Then public platforms, there's debates going on. Every topic of the planet or the country, current affairs, is hotly contested. Everyone has an opinion. Whether celebrities' marriages are breaking down, whether it's Malala on Vogue cover, whether it's the PM's remarks. Of we have opinions. So do remember that if you have an opinion, someone might not agree with you. And now this is what the key question is: how do you disagree with another person? Please be ethical. I've seen people disagreeing with other people and they are abusing each other. It's become very personal. You don't know these people. Just because they have an opinion doesn't mean you should abuse them. And if you disagree, then do it objectively and do it politely. Because again, what goes around comes around to you as well. People, if they don't like your opinion, they're going to troll you as well. So be prepared for that. So be careful about the messages that you put out there. Be respectful. Another thing is that know about the harassment laws in the country, know about the policies. So Pakistan has we have a cybercrime unit, we have the Federal Investigative Agency (FIA), we have a digital foundation rights in Pakistan, we have a helpline in Pakistan. In fact, I think I actually wrote the link. You have the National Response Center for Cybercrimes. It's www.nr3c.gov.pk. So they have a cyber unit. 1191 is the helpline. So you can also go and report people who are harassing you, people who are harassing you on your tweets. And there is a process. You give your name, you give the evidence, you take screenshots. So you need to be aware of the laws in the country and the protection that you have and the process. That is also very important. We do have laws. Every country has laws. So do we. Now, that's another whole debate of how well they're implemented. Are we even aware of it? Do we even want to go in the process? Sometimes we find those laws very cumbersome and we're like, oh my God, why do we need to go in the hassle of this? I don't even want to confront the people, or I don't want to really fight my case. And that is also fine. But if you want to take a stand, at least you should know which are the avenues, who are the people who are going to help you, how will you get supported. So, knowing the laws, knowing the helpline, knowing the process is also very important. Oh, I think I can't hear you. Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was saying that you mentioned the freedom of speech, that everyone has this right to be themselves and share their opinion, even if it's right or wrong or it does not match with the mainstream opinion. Um, a very important feature of the online world is anonymity, where you can just say everything staying anonymous. You can harass people staying anonymous. You can be toxic to other people staying anonymous. And this is something which is very hard to regulate, because even if it's demanded to show your name and address and everything, people can easily fake it. What do you think, or when it should be permissible to allow a certain extent of anonymity, or how could we use it more ethically, where it's not toxic, where it's not negative, where it's just protecting us and others, and not harming anyone?
So I think when you were asking me this question, I immediately thought of whistleblowing,
Hmm.
uh, the process where if you're an organization or a company or as an individual, you want to report an event where you know that something is illegally wrong or unethically wrong. And that is when you have that power to report the crime or to report that event or to report that information. And you as a source can be protected and you can remain anonymous. So that is one case. However, it's really difficult to be anonymous in the digital world, to be honest. As I said, that people who are tech people and the people who are behind all the platforms, again, someone is always watching you. Big Brother is
Hmm.
always watching you. So it is really difficult, I would say, to be anonymous. Someone will find out. However, yes, there are platforms where I believe there was an app or a website where people would talk about their feelings, especially the ones who were for mental health traumatized or suicidal. They could post anonymously about how they were feeling, and then people would come and give messages of encouragement. So that's really a positive way, and that's one of the ways where you are anonymous, or how anonymity was maintained in that website. So, when you have cases of social good, when you have cases of social empowerment, social justice, uh, activism, I think, yes, anonymity is very important, especially also when you're reporting these issues. You do understand there's going to be a black backlash, whether it's the law enforcement agencies, whether it's the state, whether they're the legal, the legislative bodies, even community and people themselves. In that scenario, I think that anonymity also protects you. It's also a barrier.
Right. Talking about anonymity and extending this, for example, I, as a user, when let's say I download an app because I want to communicate with someone, watch something, or experiment something, I usually do not read the terms and conditions. First, it's very time taking. Second, even if I would read everything, I wouldn't really understand because it's so. It's written in a very complex way with all these technological terms which I'm not acquainted with. So, or I'm in a hurry to use the app, so I just skip that part, say accept to everything, give permission to that app to do whatever it wants to do, and just proceed with what I want to do. And this comes with a lot of dangers and concerns. I mean, not all apps are bad, of course. How can we educate a normal user in a Pakistani society or in that context to be aware of these things? I mean, at the end of the day, if you make a choice to do that, it's fine, but the choice should be um, the choice
Informed.
informed. It should be an informed consent that you are giving permissions to this app to do whatever they want to do. It's fine, but how do we educate them? How do we make them aware of all these little things which are actually not little, but for them really insignificant?
So you rightly said a word. It's called consent, and then informed consent.
Right.
Take permission. So do understand, all the apps and the companies, they're also sharing information, and it's very so. If you're logged onto one platform, through that one platform, you can easily get access to all the other platforms. So it's like one channel combining all the other channels in a mega pipeline of information. For example, you have Facebook and WhatsApp, they're collaborating, and you have Google and ABC, they're also, Google, LinkedIn, they're also collaborating. And if you kind of log into a website, they ask you, do you want to log in through Google? Do you want to log in through
Mhm.
Facebook? Do you want to log into Insta? And you're like, oh my God, I have to now share my passwords and I have to share my information to a third party, which you might not be prepared for. So, for that, of course, you need to learn what third party sharing is. How are companies using this data? Are you, and also the fact is, are you actually in danger of the companies that have your data? For instance, I'm watching a lot of videos on YouTube about dog grooming and cat grooming. Now, if someone is looking and monitoring me and my choices of videos, will that affect me? Just as a user, I'm like, no, I really don't care if someone else is watching those videos with me, or they think, okay, there are lots of cat videos and dog videos. It's fine. However, that's just one example. I can give you other examples. Like, I had a friend who was working on a thesis on bioterrorism, and she was going through a lot of material, and and she was in UK, and this was picked up. her websites and her history, they were recorded, and then she got a call and said, they asked her, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she said, "Well, I'm doing a thesis, that's why I have to look at this content." So see, for that individual, this really, your viewing habits and your history does mean something.
Hmm.
So again, this is a very fine line and a very an important topic. Okay, I'm going to take a break here. Remind me the question again, because somehow my train of thought has jumped from
It's all right.
my videos. Yes, and I was trying to make the connection. My apologies. What was the main question?
The main question was when we are using these apps and so
Ah,
on, we're not
yes,
aware
yes,
of
yes.
what's
The
being
consumers. Yes, sorry.
yes.
Yeah, somehow cats and dogs. Why am I thinking about cats and dogs? So, how do you become an aware? How do I become aware? I have to read in fine print all those details that are so many there. There's so many lines that I don't want to, but I have to read them because this is for my safety. If you're worried about yourself, you need to take a stand and you need to protect yourself. No one is going to come and protect you. You need to do it yourself. So learn all those terminologies that you said are difficult, highlight them, put it on Google, search them, and understand what they mean and understand how your life will be affected. Will it be affected positively? Will it be affected negatively? If you think it won't affect you, okay, then you give permissions. You can share that information and you're fine. But if you think you'll be really harmed, then stop logging on to those websites, or you stop using those apps. Because see, the organizations and the companies, it is going to take them some time. And again, this, they're also thinking of a business, so you also have to think from their perspective whether they are also interested in this whole debate about information and about sharing information, because they are in the business of sharing information. They're in the business of capturing information. For them, we are the products, by the way. We are the consumers of that information. We are their clients. So you have to educate yourself. And if I'm on the organization side, I would say simplify that information. You have to build trust with your viewers and with your customers. So build that trust and simplify the jargons that don't make it that complicated, and tell the truth. If you're sharing information, which we all know you are, then
Hmm.
own it and accept it and be authentic about it, and tell us how you use that information. I mean, if my information is being recorded and shared, I want to know where it's going. So give me that, at least allow me or let me know what you're going to do with that information.
Yeah, I think that is going to prevent a lot of people from getting paranoid about their, because sometimes at the end of the day, maybe it's not even harmless, as you said. If you're watching cats and dogs videos on YouTube and somebody's monitoring your activity, it's all right, it's not threatening you. But if things are not clear from the organizational side, people are going to think about all sorts of possibilities and get just paranoid about using online media, because there are lots of advantages that they would not want to miss out on.
Exactly. So if I mean, again, be authentic and communicate and inform. That is, see, things that you can control, at least what are in your power, you need to do them. As an individual, it's my power, my choice to learn about the apps that I'm using. It is in my power to learn about ethics. It is in my power to disagree sensibly and politely. It is in my power to stop misusing images, or to stop sharing images without taking other people's consent. So that is what I can do as an individual. And companies and organizations, their power is to break down and simplify this complicated process and to speak the truth, as I've just mentioned before.
All right, Gumna, before I let you go, one last question, which is related to this image technology, because you mentioned it's also important and part of this whole debate. Um, in Pakistani society or Southeast Asian society or the religious societies where people are a bit more sensitive about their images being shared, especially women. Um, and with the development of image technology from very simple mobile phones where pictures were so blurred, and now really high resolution, high defined photos being shared on internet without their consent and without them being aware of. Um, or people just put their pictures online on Facebook and they do not really know that they could be used not just by Facebook but also by the users of Facebook in different ways,
Exactly.
which they probably wouldn't want to. How do you think they could use these platforms where image is an important part with more caution and more safety?
I think the companies that are using these platforms, they need to come up with better technology and better settings and better privacy settings. So one is at their end, to change, to do better programming and better coding so your images are protected and encrypted and safe. And for the individual, as I said, be careful of what you put out. And then you need to also have some rules that if you're sharing an image, take consent, ask other person's permission, tell them where they're using. For example, news outlets are using pictures of people for the news, but very rarely we ask people. There is no NDAs, we don't sign forms, there are no
Mhm.
consent forms. For instance, I work in the development sector, so I go in the communities in rural women, I meet rural women and talk about health and education, so forth. And they have these meetings, and they are where they're doing parda. They have chadars over their head. And I ask them that I need to take a picture for my newsletter and report. Am I allowed? And if they
Mhm.
say yes, then I take it. And I also tell them that it's going to go on our Facebook and it's going to go on a report or a website. Are you okay? And if they
Mhm.
say no, then I say, okay, it's fine. I won't take your faces. I can maybe do the back of the room where you're just sitting, or I won't take a picture at all.
Right.
So those these are some of the things that you need to do as journalists and newsmakers and content makers. You have to be very clear about the purpose of that image, and you also need to protect other people's privacy as well. If you're in that business of you receiving a lot of data, it's also your responsibility. Another example I can give you is that, talking about image technology, uh, there the Aurat March happened. People were for it, people were against it. People put their pictures while they're at the Aurat March, and then when they did it, they received a lot of hate and a lot of
Yeah.
comments that, why are
Yeah.
you there? You're dressed like this. This looks like an extravaganza or a party of elite people, and no one's very serious. And it looks like, you have music and drums and food going on. What is going on? It doesn't reflect the sentiments of the purpose why you're here. And again, this whole backlash started that, and I'm I went to the Earth March myself. I was very happy about it. I put a few pictures myself, and then people, gave me some weird comments, and I was okay with it. But then I knew what I was getting into. So as an individual, I was very aware of, yes, this is a contentious issue. This is going to happen. Um, so this is my responsibility as an individual of what I put out there. And if I am not happy, I can definitely report people. That's also a thing. You can report. You have the helpline.
Mhm.
You can report to Facebook. You can report to Twitter, WhatsApp, not WhatsApp, but yes, Twitter and YouTube. They will record and they will find some punitive action. It is in their power. You can also report to the Digital Rights Foundation or our cyber crime unit in Pakistan if you feel that you're being harassed. There's another case where pictures were photoshopped and then they were sent to girls to blackmail them. That was
Right.
also a thing. You start having a conversation, people misinterpret feelings, then they are vengeful, and they can just take your picture from your profile, Photoshop it, and then blackmail you. That is an also. So, what choices do women have? And generally, women are being harassed in Pakistan online. 90% our complaints are about women, and especially younger women, because they're also afraid. They're also afraid of being out there. They're also afraid that if these things happen, what will they do? How will they tell their parents? What support will they have? They might not have that support. So
Absolutely.
and another thing about this is that, for instance, another example is that we are in an era in Pakistan where we're talking about women entrepreneurship and we want women to promote their business. So, very interestingly, women say that we don't want to show our faces. If they are the CEOs and CFOs or they are the brains behind the co founders of their enterprise, and we say, why don't you take a picture of yourself holding your sign or your placard? That is your identity. They're like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want our face to come on Facebook or website. We are okay with giving our name or maybe our number or the website, but we don't want our identity, because what will people say? They'll see our face. Or we're not allowed to, or our men, or the patriarchy, or the
mm,
system
mm,
doesn't allow. That's also another thing,
yeah.
which and I tell them that this is your idea. You are the founder. You are working hard for this project. This is you. You are the brand. You need to be represented as well. But they're like, no, on we don't want our face to be shown. So it's I think even women need to realize their voice and the power they have. They also need to know about these protection and the laws that are available, because if you don't know about the laws, how will you protect yourself? That's the thing. Yes, I can complain that this is wrong and this is wrong, but then I also need to know what rights do I have. And I think half of us have never even read our constitution, so we don't even know our rights. And I'm assuming we've not even read the digital policy, which is also
Mm,
long and cumbersome. But somewhere it has to be simplified, and really the gist of it needs to be told to the people so that they can use online resources effectively and safely.
mm, mm. So, all in all, it's a responsibility of both the users, the consumers, and also the providers and the producers of the content, or the managers of the platforms, to be more ethically sensitive and take into consideration these local, regional, cultural aspects of societies. Thank you very much, Yumna, for your time. I think we have crossed the limit. It's almost 1 hour now. I'm sorry for keeping you occupied, but it was so interesting not to interrupt. And I enjoyed it. And I had a lot to learn from you. And I'm sure people who will watch it later will also take up a lot of helpful tips from your conversations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here. Good luck to Daastan Accountability Lab and all the other events that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thanks very
Goodbye.
much. Bye bye.
Bye.